Hi everyone, today we are going to do acid, base and salts. So this chapter we are going to do board point of view as well as NTSE and NSO also we can clear from this lecture. So let's start with the chapter. So acid, like somebody will ask, what is the nature? What is the nature of a chemical, of a chemical? Then in chemistry, if somebody asks the nature, then we are supposed to say what? Acid, base and salt. So nature terms here defines three things. One is what? First is we can say acid, and then what? Base, right? And then what? Neutral. Yeah. So we can say what? Acid, base and what? Neutral. So let's write this: acid, base and what? Neutral. Right? Fine. Acid, base and what? Neutral. So we are supposed to see here individually, like what are the properties of acid, base and salts. Those all things we'll see. Before that, what we can see here, what is like acid and base both are opposite to each other. Acid and base both are opposite in nature, right? Let's see, like in mathematics term, if you will see, if acid is plus 7 and base is minus 7, the net is going to be what? Neutral. The total is going to be what? Neutral. So by that way also we can say, like suppose acid is plus 7, base is minus 7, then we can say net is what? 0, right? So that is what going to be neutral. Now think about of that, if acid is plus 7 itself and base is minus 5, so here it is going to be what? It is neutral but little more acidic dominant, right? So plus 2, right, but towards acid. Now it is opposite. Suppose base is 7 and then acid is what? Minus 5, then it is a basic neutral, right? So that also they can ask. Fine. Next is what we are going to see, the basic properties of what? Acid, base and salts. So acid and base, we will see the basic properties. Acid and what? Base. Yes. The first property we know, it is what? Acids and bases. Acid is what? SAR in test, right? Okay, I'll come in the center and then I'll write SAR in test, right? First point, acids are what? Sour in test, and this is what? Bitter in test. Let's see few examples. If you'll see few examples, example is what here? Lemon, right? Then we can say tamarind. Then we can say what? Curd, right? Then we can say vinegar. Okay. Here is what? Baking soda. right? We can say what? Antacids. Acids, etc. Right? You guys can see, and then we can find from there. Now next is what? If you'll bring a litmus paper, then what will happen? Turns. Let's take the next property here. Turns blue litmus to red. Blue litmus to red. But here, blue to what? Red to blue. Red to blue. If you want to remember now, the by that you can base blue, base what? Blue. So by that way you can remember. Okay. Next we can say in aqueous solution, when you will dissolve in water, when you will what? Dissolve okay, actually we came in a wrong page, but fine. When you will dissolve in water, then it will leave what? H plus ion. And bases, if you will dissolve in water, then it will leave you what? OH minus ion, hydroxide ion. Hydroxide ion. Right? Fine. Now we'll see what? Aqueous solution of acid and base. Aqueous solution of acid and base. Like if you put water, then how it will react, right? That is what we are going to see here. So we can say H2SO4. Let's take water, then it will split into what? H plus 2 we can say, right? H plus, sorry, how we can say 2? H plus SO4 2 minus, right? We can take HCl with water, right? Then H plus Cl minus, see H plus, right? H2CO3, carbonic acid. So H plus CO3 minus 2. We can say H3PO4. We can say what here? H plus PO4 3 minus, right? These are the example of what? When you will put water, water here, that you should write. Now in base, if you will put water, let's see what will happen. In bases, if you will put water, then what will happen? Let's see. Right? So example, let's take what? NaOH. If you will put water. So Na plus OH minus. Take an example of what? KOH. Then it will convert what? K plus OH minus, right? Calcium hydroxide. So it is going to be what? Ca plus OH whole 2. Calcium is 2, right? 2 plus what? OH minus 2. So by this way we can say if you put acid, base and all, like if you put water, then how to react, that we have seen. Now we are going to see what? Some naturally occurring acids. So vinegar, right, is what? Acetic acid. Orange, citric acid. Tamarind is what? Tartaric acid. Tomato, oxalic acid. Curd, lactic acid. Lemon, citric acid. And string, methanoic acid. This all you can see in what? NCERT also, right? So now we are going to see the next topic here in this chapter is what? alkalis, right? All bases do not dissolve in water, and alkalis is a base that dissolve in water, right? Important. So we can say an alkali is a base that dissolve in what? Water. They are soapy to touch, bitter and corrosive in nature, right? Never taste or touch them as they may cause harm, right? Example is what? NaOH, KOH, calcium hydroxide, right? Sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, and calcium hydroxide. So these are what? Alkalis. Now we are going to see the reaction of what? Like acid plus base, what it will give. So obviously acid plus base will give you what? Salt plus water. If you will see guys properly, then it is ultimately we can say SOH. See, cation, anion. So anion, this is cation here, right? So SO4, anion and cation react together, right? And then what? Hydrogen and then OH, H2O. So ultimately double displacement kind of thing, right? So acid plus base will give you what? Salt plus what? Water. So now we are going to see some chemical properties of acid as well as what? Bases that we are going to see. One examples also we'll see. You guys can read from NCERT also. Even here also those examples are sufficient, whatever I'm going to give you. So acid plus metal will give you what? Acid plus metal will give you salt plus water. Salt plus what? Sorry, salt plus hydrogen gas, black color. Salt plus what? H2 gas, right? Let's see an example. Suppose if HCl, right? HCl plus what? Metal, any metal. Let's take Na. So what will happen now? HCl. So NaCl plus what? H2 gas, right? NaCl plus what? HCl plus what? Na, right? Now base guys, if you will see base plus metal, same thing. Salt plus what? Salt plus water. Salt. So salt plus what? H2 gas. But one more thing, no, all metals will not react with bases, right? That also you should keep in mind. So let's take base NaOH plus what? Zn, right? So we can say now what it will form. So we can say what? NaOH plus what? Zn, then it will give you Na ZnO2 plus what? H2. That is going to be what? Base plus what? Salt, right? Now we are going to see metal acid plus what? Metal oxide. So acid plus metal oxide is going to give you what? Salt plus what? Water. Salt plus water. Let's see how to remember this. Easy way to remember this is what? See, any metal compound is basic in nature. Non-metal compounds are acidic in nature. So we took metal compound. So that is what? Basic in nature. So guys, of course it is going to be acid plus metal is what? Metal oxide. Means acid. So this is ultimately we can say it is a base, right? So acid plus base, right? This acid plus base will give you what? Salt plus water. So let's take an acid HCl, right? And that is what will come in mouth. Like, and then calcium oxide, right? So salt plus what they are saying? Water. So we can say calcium chloride. Calcium valency is how much? 2. CaCl2 plus what? Water. Hope so you guys got it, right? So base plus non-metal oxide, right? Base plus what? Non-metal oxide. So base plus non-metal oxide will give you what? Base plus non-metal oxide will give you same thing. So let's take an example of what? Same thing. What? Salt. Again, base non-metal oxides are what? Acidic in nature, right? As we wrote here. So we can say salt plus what? Water, right? So let's take an example, NaOH, right? Plus we can say non-metal oxide. Let's take SO4. So it is going to be what? Na2SO4. Why 2 guys? Because sulfate is 2, valency is what? 2. So we can say remaining is what here? H2O. So by that way we can take. Now let's see. See, this thing is important. Metal. What is that? Metal compound is basic in nature, right? Non-metal, metal compounds means metal oxides. Actually, metal oxides are what basic, and non-metal oxides are what acidic in nature. Now acid plus metal or metal bicarbonate will give you what, as you guys also know, that what, salt plus water plus CO2. Salt plus water plus what, CO2, carbon dioxide, right? So let's take an example again. Let's take HCl, right? HCl plus what? Let's take first is what, metal carbonate. Metal carbonate we can say Na2CO3. Na2CO3. If Na2CO3 you are taking, then it is going to be what? Think. Again, what you are supposed to do, you are supposed to separate it out. H plus Cl minus NaCO3. So Cl and going to be what, with Na plus, right? So NaCl, right? Then what, CO2 plus what, H2O. See how I did here. What I am seeing here is, let's see, I'll tell you properly. H is plus 1 and Cl is minus 1. Na is plus 1, carbonate is minus 2. So yeah, this two will form, and then these things will be separately. That's it. So it will become salt, NaCl, right? And CO2 plus H2O. So by this way you can remember in an easy way, right? Okay, let's take now with hydrogen carbonate, right, or metal carbonate, HCl plus what, NaHCO3. Again it is going to be what, NaHCO3. Now see, when hydrogen carbonate, then the valency decreased by 1, right? So it will be NaHCO3, no Na2HCO3, right? So again the formula is going to be NaCl plus what, CO2 plus what, H2O. So by this way we can write. Now here is what, both the places it is forming what, CO2. How we can check the presence of this CO2, that also we'll have to check. Let's see, if you want to check this presence of CO2, no, then we can say what here directly. We can do one thing. Let's pass with lime water. Pass with what? Lime water, right? So lime water is what? Slag lime, CaOH whole 2 plus what? Water, right? That gives a PPT, right? That turns CaOH whole 2 turns in what? Turns so that will become CaOH whole 2 plus water, ultimately plus carbon dioxide also is there, right? So that will convert into what? Calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate is what? Kind of a solid, right? So we can say it is white PPT. White precipitate will form of this, right? Now there is one more problem. If you give excess of CO2, excess of what? CO2, excess of CO2, excess of CO2, then what will happen? Excess of CO2 if you will pass, then the reaction is going to be, again if you will see this calcium carbonate, this is transparent, right? So now we can say calcium carbonate, again, like this is not transparent, this is transparent. Calcium carbonate plus CO2 plus H2O, again if it will react, then it will give you the calcium hydrogen carbonate. Now this becomes, again the problem is, as we started from the place, right? So it is going to be again what, transparent, so you cannot check. It means what, excess of CO2, or for a long time if you will put CO2 in this reaction, then what will happen? Again you cannot check, because calcium hydrogen carbonate will form here, right? So till here today's class, now we'll see till here only. We'll see in the next class like what other things are there remaining. Okay then. Bye.